Hi, I'm Joey. This is Porter Robinson's World, and this is the Vinyl Countdown. Porter Robinson is an artist that, if you follow my main channel, The Anime Man, links to that if you somehow don't know about it. It is my main channel after all. If you follow my main channel or you are a fan of me on the main channel, then it's an album that you've most likely heard of. Even if you're not a fan of me, it's most likely an album you have heard of if you are a big advocate of Japanese culture, anime, games, all that kind of good stuff, because Porter Robinson's World is an album that is basically the otaku's national anthem, if it's not Hatsune Miku. Now, I am fortunate enough to actually be friends with Porter. I have talked to him on numerous occasions, and he is a fine young fellow, which is so weird considering that when I bought this LP, I actually messaged him being like, dude, I didn't know this was on vinyl. I was listening to it online when it first came out. I was listening to it. One of my friends had the CD for this album, which I listened to and absolutely fell in love with it, but I did not know that this was on the vinyls. So since I do quite love this album and not many people know that I am friends with Porter Robinson, I figured it would be a perfect excuse to make it an episode on the Vinyl Countdown. How do I explain Porter Robinson's music? It is electric, or electronic, rather, electric. I think most stuff is electric nowadays. A lot of people have described Porter Robinson's music as lo-fi, glitch hop, down-tempo. There are some elements of techno involved, there are some elements of trance involved. It's kind of all over the board, but for the most part it is electronica. And it is an album that has basically just absolutely exploded Porter Robinson's career. Now, Porter Robinson is a massive fan of Japanese culture. He has cited in many interviews and articles as being a proud weeaboo, and well, his style is definitely apparent on this World's album. You've probably seen this little logo being used on his Twitter or by, you know, his fans and whatnot, and well, I think this is, I guess, this is kind of like become his logo of sorts, just this kind of emoji thing. He did use it multiple times on the single Sad Machine, which is off of this album right here. Other notable tracks include Flicker, in which he actually uses a sample from an anime, more specifically a sample from Anonatsu de Matteru, which was an okay anime, I guess, but I'm not going to review that anime here because we're on a different channel. I believe this album was made in 2014, so I first listened to it when I was actually in my second year of college. And before this album dropped, and before my friend introduced me to Porter Robinson with this album, I hadn't really heard of Porter Robinson before, so I kind of went backwards with his stuff. I started with the World's album, which I absolutely instantly fell in love with, and then I kind of went back and listened to his new, older stuff, rather. He has recently just exploded into mainstream success with his track Shelter, in which he did a full animation of with A1 Pictures, and it's gone to the point now where you can find Porter Robinson merch in Japan, which, as a weeaboo, or, you know, a self-titled weeaboo, as Porter Robinson describes himself, is a massive success, and I couldn't be more proud of him. But when it came to this album, as much as I love this album, and as much as I liked listening to it on my Spotify through my headphones, I was a little hesitant at first when I found this LP in a record store, because when we say records, like when we talk about vinyls, hence this is why it's the Vinyl Countdown, you don't really associate it with A, newer albums, and B, electronica, especially modern electronica like Worlds. So when I picked it up, I was excited because I was like, holy shit, I didn't know Worlds was on vinyl. This would be really cool to have. This, I should let Porter know. But at the back of my mind, I was like, how is this album gonna sound on vinyl? Because keep in mind that this album was, again, made in 2014, and it is a fully electronically created album. It is, you know, electronica. So I was kind of, I guess, interested to see how this album would sound on a more acoustic, more older styled version of audio, like vinyls, like records. And I played it, and I must say that it has a very different quality to it. If I were to be brutally honest with you guys, I believe the record, the vinyl of Worlds, definitely does not sound as good as if it were just streamed regularly on, say, Spotify or YouTube. The electronic sounds just don't really fit the style of a record. Because again, when we think of a record, we tend to think of, you know, the older styled instruments, you know, like the classic rock, or, you know, the Beatles, or, you know, like things that were actually only available on record. Whereas I believe music from, like, especially the last, you know, 15, 20 years, you know, ever since the CD generation, I feel those kinds of albums are created more for that medium, created more for stuff like CDs, for stuff like Spotify, you know, streaming services. So for an album like this that was made in that era to kind of go back to an older generation or older medium, definitely has, in some parts, a wall that it needs to cross that is quite tall and quite unexpectedly hard to get over. And I think Worlds just doesn't quite make it over that wall. I can understand the appeal of having an album like Worlds on record, you know, as the hipsters are probably frothing at the mouth as they're seeing this record in front of their eyes. But to me, it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't work. It's a weird way to say this, but I feel that on record, a lot of the songs on this album just sound bit crushed. And I know that's like kind of a weird oxymoron to say that an album on a vinyl has been bit crushed, but it does. It sounds bit crushed. It sounds way too compressed on a vinyl. And it just doesn't kind of deliver that sharp electronic sound that the album is known for, compared to, say, a streaming service. It does bring out a weird, like, older styled, you know, older electronica feel to it, but the sound and the timbre of many of the tracks on this album just don't really seem to fit with that style. You know, it's like if your grandma just picked up a smartphone and, you know, somehow learned to crack it in a matter of like 3 minutes. Like, it just wouldn't work. And this same grandma doesn't know how to operate your microwave. It's kind of like witnessing that. It just has this like weird generation gap that this album just, I don't think, just gets over very well. But other than that, the album itself, the track listing itself, is pretty strong. And there are a lot of big hits, again, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, that really shot Porter Robinson into fame with this. So if you're a fan of electronica, if you're a fan of, you know, groovy, very poppy electronica and glitch hop and, you know, down-tempo stuff, then this is definitely an album that you should absolutely listen to. So let's look inside the album for once. Oh yeah, I had to place some books to keep it up. So unlike a lot of records, this album doesn't have a fold. It just is a one-sleeved album. The back is kind of boring. I feel they could have added some kind of, you know, different design to the back of this. Like the cover, the front cover is so unique and so interesting to look at, you know, but just the back is just kind of boring. Like, you couldn't have added something in there, but whatever. This is, in fact, a double album. Yeah, we have four sides here, each of the sleeves having a face of the Sad Machine face that the album is known for. On the first album, we have tracks like Divinity, Sad Machine, Years of War, Fresh Static Snow, and Polygon Dust. Out of these tracks, my favorites are definitely Divinity and Sad Machine. Sad Machine used a Vocaloid, actually. It's one of the few tracks that Porter actually used an English Vocaloid. I believe her name was Ia, I don't know, something like that. But this is where the face comes from. This is the Sad Machine that he showed in the music video. Side C and D have tracks like Hear the Bells, Natural Light, Lionhearted, Sea of Voices, Fellow Feeling, and Goodbye to a World. So there are a lot of... Oh, and side B here had Flicker as well. My bad. I was like, where the hell is Flicker? It wasn't on the track listing. That was weird. Open it up right here, and you have a 12-inch vinyl with, again, the Sad Machine faces on it, and it's pretty clean. I got this brand new at the a record store in Las Vegas, and again, like I was excited and not excited at the same time. I was excited and worried. That's the words I should say. And you know what? I was excited, but my worries were definitely answered with just the weird, I guess, age gap. Oh, and inside we also have a little card here which says your vinyl purchase is accompanied by a free digital version of this album. The download instructions are right here, which I'm not going to show you. Or maybe I will. Maybe the first person who sees this and wants to get a digital version of this album, maybe you can get it. So there you go. I'll just show it really quickly. So if you see that, then that's all yours. That's a free digital giveaway of the Worlds album. If you're into your electronica and if you're into your Porter Robinson, then there you go. Merry Christmas. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Porter Robinson. He's my boy. I absolutely love the Worlds album, but just because he's my boy doesn't mean I'm going to sugarcoat my verdict on the Porter Robinson Worlds vinyl LP in saying that you should stream it. I don't think you will get the full experience of the Worlds album through this vinyl, as much as it is cool to have, and as much as you can brag to your hipster friends and your Porter Robinson fans being like, I got the vinyl of Worlds. Musically speaking, it definitely does sound better on streaming services, it definitely does sound better digitally. I see what they wanted to do with this vinyl, I see what they were trying to accomplish with the whole juxtaposition of newer sounding music with an old medium, but just the tone of the tracks, and just the way that it was mixed, and the way that vinyls portray tracks, it just doesn't really work. But the album is still great. I still like the fact that I even have it. It's cool to have. But yeah, if you want to fully enjoy this album, and you know, don't really care about the whole entitlement or anything like that, I would say don't buy it, just stream it. But yeah, Porter, if you're watching this, I still love you, dude. Your newer stuff right now is banging. It's good stuff. You know, keep experimenting with your shit. I just like the fact that I have this. Hopefully, I can get you to sign this one day if we meet up, because we've tried like twice already, but you're too much of a busy man. My name was Joey. That was Porter Robinson's Worlds, and this was the Vinyl Countdown.